Wisdom chapter 1 Exhortation to righteousness, the key to a life. Love righteousness, you who judge the earth, think of the Lord in goodness, and seek him in the integrity of heart. Because he is found by those who do not test him, and manifest himself to those who do not disbelieve him. For perverse counsels separate people from God, and his power put to the proof rebukes the foolhardy. Because into a soul that plot evil, wisdom does not enter, nor does she dwell in body on the depth of the sin. For the Holy Spirit of the disciple flees deceit and withdraw from senseless counsels, and is rebuked when unrighteousness occurs. For wisdom is a kindly spirit, yet she does not acquit the blasphemer's lips. Because God is a witness of the inmost self, and the sure observer of the heart, and the listener to the tongues. For the Spirit of the Lord fills the world, is all-embracing, and knows whatever is said. Therefore those who utter wicked things will not go unnoticed, nor will chastising condemnation pass them by. For the device of the wicked shall be scrutinized, and the sound of their words shall reach the Lord, for the chastisement of their transgressions. Because a jealous ear hearkens to everything, and discordant grumbling are not secret. Therefore guard against the profitous grumbling, and from the calumny withhold your tongues. For stealthy utterance will not go unpunished, and a lying mouth destroys the soul. Do not court death by your erring way of the life, nor draw to yourselves destruction by the work of your hands. Because God did not make death, nor does he rejoice in the destruction of the living. For he fashioned all things that they might have being, and the creatures of the world are wholesome. There is not a destructive drug among them, nor any domain of the Hades on earth. For righteousness is undying. The wicked reject the immortality and righteousness alike. It was the wicked who with hands and words invite death, consider it a friend and find for it, and made a covenant with it, because they deserve to be allied with it. Wisdom chapter 2 For not thinking rightly, they said among themselves, brief and troubled is our lifetime, there is no remedy for our dying, nor is anyone known to have come back from Hades. For by mere chance were we born, and hereafter we shall be as though we had not been, because the breath in our nostril is smoke, and the reason a spark from the beating of our hearts. And when this is quenched, our body will be ashes, and our spirit will be poured abroad like empty air. Even our name will be forgotten in time, and no one will recall our deeds. So our life will pass away like trace of the cloud, and will be dispersed like a mist, pursued by the sun's rays and overpowered by its heat. For our lifetime is the passing of the shadow, and our dying cannot be deferred, because it is fixed with the seal, and no one returns. Come, therefore, let us enjoy the good things that are here, and make use of the creation with useful jest. Let us have our fill of the costly wine and the perfumes, and let no springtime blossom pass us by. Let us crown ourselves with the rose bulbs before their widows. Let no meadow be free from our wantonness. Everywhere let us leave token of our merriment. For this is our portion, and this is our lot. Let us oppress the righteous poor. Let us neither spare the widows, nor revere the aged, for the hair ground white with times. But let our strength be our norm of the righteousness, for weakness proves itself useless. Let us lie in wait for the righteous one, because he is annoying to us. He opposes our actions, reproaches us for the transgression of the law, and charges us with the violation of our trainings. He professes to have knowledge of God and styles himself a child of the Lord. To us, he is a census of our thought. Merely to see him in is a hardship for us. Because his life is not like that of others, and different are his ways. He judges us debased. He holds aloof from our best as from things imposed. He calls blessed the destiny of the righteous and boasts that God is his father. Let us see whether his words be true. Let us find out what will happen to him in the end. For if the righteous one is the Son of God, God will help him and deliver him from the hand of his foes. With the violence and the torture, let us put him to the test, that we may have proof of his gentleness and try his patience. Let us condemn him to the shameful death, for according to his own words, God will take care of him. These were the thought, but they erred, for their wickedness blinded them. As they did not know the hidden counsel of God, neither did they count on the recompense for holiness, nor discern the innocent soul's reward. For God formed us to be imperishable, the image of his own nature he made us. But by the envy of the devil, death entered the world, and they who are allied with him experience it. Wisdom chapter 3, the hidden counsel of God. The sort of righteous are in the hand of the God, and no torment shall touch them. They seemed in the view of the foolish to be dead, and their passing away was thought an affliction. And their going forth from us utter destruction, but they are in peace. For if to others indeed they seem punished, yet is their hope full of immortality. Chastised a little, they shall be greatly blessed, because God tried them and found them worthy of himself. As gold in the furnace he proved them, and as a sacrificial offering he took them to himself. In the time of their judgment they shall shine, and dart about as sparks trouble stubbles. They shall judge nations and rule over peoples, and the Lord shall be their kings forever. Those who trust in him shall understand the truth, and the faithful shall abide with him in love. Because grace and mercy are with his holy ones, and his care is with the elect. But the wicked shall receive a punishment to match their thought, since they neglected righteousness and forsook the Lord. For those who despise wisdom and instruction are doomed, vanished their whole fruitless their labors, and worthless their works. Their wives are foolish, and their children are wicked, accursed their broods. Yes, blessed is she who is childless and undefiled, never knew the transgression of the marriage bed, for she shall bear fruit at the judgment of souls. So also the Enoch, whose hand wrought no misdeed, who held no wicked thought against the Lord, for he shall be given a fidelity choice reward, and a more gratifying heritage in the Lord's temples. For the fruit of the noble struggle is a glorious one, and the unfailing is the root of the understanding. But the children of the adulterers will remain without issue, and the progeny of the unlawful bad will disappear. But should they attain long life, and they will be held in no esteem, and dishonored will their old age be in the end. Should they die abruptly, they will have no hope, nor comfort in the day of the scrutiny. For a dire is the end of the wicked generations. Wisdom chapter 4. Better is childness with a virtue, for immortal is the memory of the virtue. Acknowledged both by God and human beings. When it is present, people imitate it, and they long for it when it is gone. Forever it marches crowned in triumph, victorious in unsullied deeds of valors. But the numerous progeny of the wicked shall be of no avail. Their spurious offshoot shall not strike deep root, nor take a firm hold. For even though their branches flourish for a time, they are unsteady and shall be rocked by the wind, and by the violence of the winds uprooted. Their twig shall be broken off untimely, their fruit useless, unripe for eating, fit for nothings. For children born of the lawless union give evidence of the wickedness of their parents when they are examined. But the righteous one, though he die earlier, shall be at rest. For the age that is honorable comes not with the passing of time, nor can it be measured in terms of the years. Rather, understanding pass for gray hair, and an unsullied life is the attainment of the old age. The one who pleased God was loved, living among sinners was transported. Stretched away, lest wickedness pervert his mind, or deceit beguile his soul. For the witchery of the paltry things obscure what is right, and the word of the desire transforms the innocent mind. Having become perfect in a short while, he reached the fullness of the long careers. For his soul was pleasing to the Lord, therefore he spared him out of the midst of the wickedness. But the people saw and did not understand, nor did they take that consideration into account. Yes, the righteous one who has died will condemn the simple who lives, and the youth safely completed will condemn the many years of the unrighteous who have grown old. For they will see death of the wise one and will not understand what the Lord intended or why he kept him safe. They will see and hold him in contempt, but the Lord will laugh them to scorn. And they shall afterward become dishonored corpse and unceasing mockery among the dead. For he shall strike them down speechless and prostrate and rock them to their foundations. They shall be utterly laid waste and shall be in grief, and their memory shall perish. The judgment of the wicked. Fearful shall they come at the counting of their sins, and their lawless deeds shall convict them to their face. Wisdom chapter 5. Then shall the righteous one with great assurance confront his oppressor who sat at naught his labors. Seeing this, the wicked shall be shaken with dreadful fear and be amazed at the unexpected salvation. They shall say among themselves, lawful and growing through anguish of the spirit, this is the one whom once we had as a laughing stock and as a type of the mockeries. Fools that we were, his life we accounted madness and death dishonored. See how he is accounted among the heavenly beings, how his lot is with the holy ones. We then have strayed from the way of the truth, and the light of the righteousness did not shine for us, and the sun did not rise for us. We were entangled in the thorn of the mischief and of ruins. We journeyed through a trackless desert, but the way of the Lord we never knew. What did our pride avail us? What have wealth and its boastfulness afforded us? All of them passed like a shadow and like a fleeting rumors. Like a ship traversing the heaving waters, when it has passed, no trace can be found, no path of its care in the waves. Or like a bird flying through the air, no evidence of its course is to be found, but the fluid air rushed by the beating of the pinions, and clapped by the rushing force of speeding wings is traversed, and afterward no mark of the passage can be found in it. Or as when an arrow has been shot at a mark, the parted air straightway flows together again, so that none discerns the way it went. Even so, once born, we abruptly came to naught, and had no sign of the virtue to display, but were consumed in our wickedness. Yes, the hope of wicked is like a trap borne by the wind, and like a fine storm-driven snow, like smoke scattered by the wind, and like the passing memory of the nomad camping for a single day. But the righteous live forever, and in the Lord is their recompense, and the thought of them is with the Most High. Therefore shall they receive the splendid crown, the beautiful diadem from the hand of the Lord. For he will shelter them with his right hand, and protect them with his arm. He shall take his zeal for armor, and arm creation to require to enemies. Shall put on righteousness for a breastplate, wear sure judgment for a helmet. Shall take invincible holiness for a shield, and sharpen his sudden anger for sword. The universe will war with him against the foolhardy. Well-aimed bolt of the writing will go forth, and from the cloud will leap to the mark as from well-drawn bow. And as from a sling or rasp hailstone shall be hurled, the wall of the sea will be enraged, and the flooding rivers will overwhelm them. A mighty wind will confront them, and winnow them like a tempest. Thus lawlessness will lay waste the whole earth, and the evil-doing overturn the throne of the mighty. Wisdom chapter 6, Exhortation to seek wisdom. Hear therefore kings and understand, learn you magistrate of the earth's expanse. Give ear you who have power over multitude, and lord it over throng of peoples. Because a sword was given you by the Lord, and the sovereignty by the Most High, who shall prove your work and scrutinize your counsels. Because though you are minister of his kingdom, you did not judge rightly, and did not keep the law, nor walk according to will of God. Terribly and swiftly he shall come against you, because severe judgment await the exalted. For the lowly may be pardoned out of the mercy, but the mighty shall be mightily put to the test. For the ruler of the earth show no partiality, nor does he fear greatness, because he himself made the great as well as the small, and provide for all alike. But for those in power in rigorous scrutiny impend. To you therefore, O princes, are my words addressed, that you may learn wisdom, and that you may not fall away. For those who keep the holy precept, hallowed will be found holy, and those learned in them will have ready a response. Desire therefore my words, long for them, and you will be instructed. Resplendent and unfading is wisdom, and she is readily perceived by those who love her, and found by those who seek her. She hastens to make herself known to those who desire her. One who watched for her at dawn will not be disappointed, for she will be found sitting at the gate. For setting your heart to honor is the perfection of prudence, and whoever keeps a vigil for her is quickly freed from care. Because she makes her allowance, seeking those worthy of the whole, and graciously appears to them on the way, and goes to meet him with full attention. For the first step toward wisdom is an honest desire for disciplines. Then careful discipline is a love of her. Love means the keeping of her laws. To observe her laws is the basis for the incorruptibilities. Incorruptibility makes one close to God. Thus the desire of the wisdom leads to a kingdom. If then you find place in throne and the scepter, you prince of peoples. Honor wisdom, then you may reign as king forever. Introductions. Now what wisdom is and how she came to be I shall proclaim, and I shall conceal no secret from you, but from the very beginning I shall search out, and bring to the right knowledge of her. I shall not diverge from the truth. Neither shall I admit consuming zealous to my company, because they can have no fellowship with wisdom. A multitude of the wise is the safety of the world, and the prudent king the stability of the peoples. So take instruction from my words to your prophets. Wisdom chapter 7. Solomon is like all others. I too am mortal, the same as all the rest, and a descendant of the first one formed of the earth. And in my mother's womb I was molded into flesh. In a 10 months period, the body and blood from the seed of the man and the pleasure that accompanies marriage. And I too, when born, inherited the common errors and fell upon the kindred earth, wherein I uttered that first sound common to all. In swaddling clothes and with constant care I was nurtured. For no king has any different origin on birth. One is the entry into life for all, and is one same way they live it. Solomon prayed, and wisdom and riches came to him. Therefore I prayed, and prudence was given me. I prayed, and the spirit of wisdom came to me. I preferred her to scepter and the throne, and deemed riches nothing in comparison with her. Nor did I liken any priceless gem to her, because all gold in view of her is a bit of the sand, and before her silver is to be accounted mirrors. Beyond health and beauty I loved her, and I chose to have her rather than the light, because her radiance never ceases. Yet all good things together came to me with her, and the countless riches at her hands. I rejoice in them all, because wisdom is their reader, though I had not known that she is their mother. Solomon prays for help to speak worthily of wisdom. Sincerely I run about her, and ungrudgingly do I share her riches. I do not hide away. For she is unfailing treasure. Those who gain this treasure win the friendship of God, being commanded by the gift that come from her disciples. Now God grant I speak suitably, and value this endowment at their words. For he is a guide of the wisdom and the director of the wise. For both we and our words are in his hand, as well as the prudence and the knowledge of the craft. For he gave me sound knowledge of what exists, that I might know the structure of the universe and the force of its element, the beginning and the end and the midpoint of the times, the change in the sun's courses and the variation of the seasons, cycle of the years, the position of the stars, nature of the living things, the temper of the beast, the power of the wind, and the thought of the human beings, use of the plants and the force of the roots. Whatever is hidden or plain are learned, for wisdom the artisan of all taught me. Nature and the incomparable dignity of wisdom. For in her is a spirit, the intelligent, the holy, unique, manifold, the subtle, agile, clear, unstained, certain, never harmful, loving, good kings. Unhampered, beneficent, kindly, firm, secure, tranquil, all-powerful, all-seeing, and pervading all spirit. though they be intelligent, poor, and very subtle. For wisdom is mobile beyond all motion, and she penetrates and pervades all things by reason of the purities. For she is the breath of the might of the God, and the pure emanation of the glory of the Almighty. Therefore nothing defiled can enter into her. For she is the reflection of the eternal light, the spotless mirror of the power of the God, the image of the goodness. Although she is one, she can do all things, and she renews everything while herself perduring. Passing into holy soul from age to age, she produces a friend of God and the prophet. For God loves nothing so much as the one who dwells with wisdom. For she is fairer than the sun and surpasses every constellation of the stars. Compared to her light, she is found more radiant. Though night supplant light, wickedness does not prevail over wisdom. Wisdom chapter 8. Indeed, she spanned the world from end to end mightily, and governed all things well. Wisdom, the source of the blessing. Her I loved and sought after from my youth. I sought to take her for my bride, and was enamored of the beauties. She adds to nobility the splendor of the companionship with God. Even the ruler of the world loved her. For she reads into the understanding of God and chooses his works. If riches are desirable in a life, what is richer than wisdom, who produces all things? And if a prudent is at work, who is in the world is a better artisan than she? Or if one loves righteousness, whose works are virtuous, she teaches moderation and prudence, rightness and fortitude. And nothing in life is more useful than this. Or again, if one earns for wide experience, she knows the things of the old and infers the things of to come. She understands the turns of the phrase and the solution of the riddles. Sign and wonder she knows in advance, and the outcome of the time and ages. Wisdom as Solomon, counselor and comfort. So I determined to take her to live with me, knowing that she would be my counselor while all was well, and my comfort in care and griefs. Because of her I have glory among the multitude, and esteem from elders, though I am but a youth. I shall become keen in judgment, and shall be marveled before rulers. They will wait while I am silent and listen when I speak, and when I shall speak the more, they will put their hands upon their mouths. Because of her I shall have immortality, and live to those after me an everlasting memories. I shall govern peoples, and the nation will be my subject. Tyrannical princes, hearing of me, will be afraid. In the assembly I shall appear noble, and in war courageous. Entering my house I shall take my repose beside her, for association with her involves no bitterness, and living with her no grief, but rather joy and gladness. Wisdom is a gift of God. Reflecting on these things and considering in my heart that immortality lies in kinship with wisdom, great delight in love of her, and unfailing riches in the work of her hands, and that in associating with her there is prudence, and fair renown in showing her discourses. I went about seeking to take her for my own. Now I was well favored the child, and I came by noble natures. Or rather, being noble, I attained an unblasphemed body. And knowing that I could not otherwise possess her unless God gave it, and this too was prudence to know whose gift she is, I went to the Lord and besought him, and said with all my heart, Wisdom chapter 9, Solomon prayer. God of my ancestor, Lord of mercy, you who have made all things by your word. And in your wisdom have established humankind to rule the creature produced by you, and to govern the world in holiness and righteousness, and to render judgment in integrity of heart. Give me wisdom, consult at your throne, and do not reject me from among your children. For I am your servant, the child of your maid servant, a man weak and short-lived, and lacking in comprehension of judgment and of laws. Indeed, though one be perfect among mortals, if wisdom who can from you be lacking, that one will count for nothing. You have chosen me king over your people and magistrate over your sons and daughters. You have bid me build a temple on your holy mountain and an altar in the city that is your dwelling place, a copy of the holy tabernacle which you had established from of old. Now with you is wisdom who knows your works and was present when you made the world, who understand what is pleasing in your eyes and what is conformable with your commands. Send her forth from your holy heavens and from your glorious throne dispatch her, that she may be with me and walk with me, that I may know what is pleasing to you. For she knows and understands all things, and will guide me prudently in my affairs, and safeguard me by her glories. Thus my deeds will be acceptable, and I will judge your people justly, and be worthy of my father's thrones. For who knows God's counsel, or who can conceive of what the Lord intends? For the deliberation of the mortals are timid, and uncertain of plans. For the corruptible body burdens the soul, and the earthly tent weighs down the mind with its many concerns. Scarcely can we guess the thing on earth, and only with difficulty grasp what is at hand. But things in heaven, who can source them out? Or who can know your counsel unless you give wisdom and send your Holy Spirit from on high? Thus were the paths of those on earth made straight, and the people learned what pleased you, and were saved by wisdom. Wisdom chapter 10. Wisdom preserves her fellows. She preserved the first form, the father of the world, when he alone had been created, and she raised him up from his falls, and gave him power to rule all things. But when an unrighteous man withdrew from her in his anger, he perished through his fratricidal wrath. When on his account the earth was flooded, wisdom again saved it, by loading the righteous man on frailest earth. She, when the nation was sunk in universal wickedness, knew the righteous man, kept him blameless before God, and preserved him resolute against pity for his child. She rescued a righteous man from among the wicked who were being destroyed, when he fled as a fire descended upon the Pentapolis. Whereas a testimony to its wickedness, even yet there remained a smoking desert, plants bearing fruit that never ripens, and the tomb of the disbelieving soul, a standing pillar of salt. For those who forsook wisdom not only were deprived of the knowledge of the good, but also left the world a memory of their folly, so that they could not even be hidden in their fall. But wisdom rescued from tribulation those who serve her. She, when a righteous man fled from his brother anger, guided him in the right ways, showed him the kingdom of God, and gave him knowledge of the holy things. She prospered him in his labors, and made abundant the fruit of his works. Stood by him against the greed of his defrauders, and enriched him. She preserved him from foes and secured him against the ambush, and she gave him the prize for her hard struggle, that he might know that devotion to God is mightier than all else. She did not abandon a righteous man when he was sold, but rescued him from sin. She went down with him into a dungeon and did not desert him in his bond, until she brought him the scepter of the royalty and authority over his oppressors, proved the false those who have defamed him, and gave him eternal glory. The holy people and her blameless descendant, it was she who rescued them from the nation that oppressed them. She entered the soul of the Lord's servant and withstood the fearsome kings with signs and wonders. She gave the holy ones the reward of their labors, conducted them by the wondrous Lord, became a shelter for them by day, a starry flame by night. She took them across the Red Sea and brought them through the deep waters. Their enemies she overwhelmed and churned them up from the bottom of the depths. Therefore the righteous despoiled the wicked, and they sang up to your holy name, Lord, and praised in unison your conquering hand. Because wisdom opened the mouth of the mute and gave ready speech to infants. Wisdom chapter 11. She prospered their affairs through the holy prophet. Introduction. They journeyed through the uninhabited desert, and the lonely place they pitched their tent. They withstood the enemies and warded off their foes. When they thirsted, they called upon you, and water was given them from the sure rocks, or catching up their thirst from the hot stone. For by the things through which their foes were punished, they in their need were benefited. First example, water punished the Egyptians and benefited the Israelites. Instead of the river perennial sources troubled with the impure blood, as a rebuke to the decree of the slaying of the infants, you gave them abundant water beyond their hope. After you have shown by the thirst they experienced how you punished their adversaries. For when they had been tried, though only mildly chastised, they recognized how the wicked, condemned in anger, were being tormented. You tested your own people, admonishing them as a father, but as a stern king you proved and condemned the wicked. Those near and far were equally afflicted, for a twofold grief took hold of them, and growing at the remembrance of the ones who had departed. For when they heard that the cause of their own torment was a benefit to those others, they recognized the Lord. But though they had mocked and rejected him who had been cast out and abandoned long ago, in the final outcome they marveled at him, since their thirst proved unlike that of the righteous. The second example, animal punished the Egyptian and benefit the Israelites. In return for their senseless, wicked thought, which misled them into worshipping dumb, sulphur, and waterless insects, you sent upon them swarms of the dumb creatures for vengeance, that they might recognize that one is punished by the very things through which one thinks. Digression on God's mercy. For not without means was your almighty hand that had fashioned the universe from formless matter, to send upon them many bears or fierce lions. Only newly created wrathful unknown beasts breathing forth fiery breath, or pouring out the roaring smoke and the flashing terrible spark from their eyes. Not only could these attack and completely destroy them, even their frightful appearance itself could slay. Even without these, they could have been killed at a single blast, pursued by justice, and renowned by your mighty spirit, but you have disposed all things by measure and number and weight. For great strength is always present with you, who can resist the might of your arms? Indeed, before you whole universe is like a grain from balance, or a drop of the morning dew come down upon the earth. But you have mercy on all, because you can do all things, and you overlook sins for the sake of the repentance. For you love all things that are, and loathe nothing that you have made, for you would not fashion what you hate. How could a thing remain unless you will it, or be preserved had it not been called forth by you? But you spare all things because they are yours, or ruler and lover of the souls. Wisdom chapter 12. For your imperishable spirit is on all things. Therefore you rebuke offenders little by little, warn them and remind them of the sin they are committing, that they may abandon their wickedness and believe in your Lord. For truly the ancient, the inhabitant of your holy land, whom you hated for this most odious work of the sorcery and the impious sacrifice, this merciless murder of the children, devourers of the human flesh, and initiate engage in blood rituals, and the parents who took with her their hands defenseless lives, you will to destroy by the hands of our ancestors, that the one that is dearest of all to you might receive a worthy colony of the God's servant. But even these you spared, since they were but mortals, and sent wasps as forerunners of your army, that they might exterminate them by degrees. Now that you were without power to have the wicked vanquished in battle by the righteous, or wiped out at once by a terrible beast, or by one decisive war. But condemning them by degrees, you gave them space for repentance. You were not unaware that their origin were wicked, and their malice ingrained, and that their disposition would never change. For they were people accursed from the beginning, neither out of fear of the for enemies did you grant the release from their sins. For who can say to you, what have you done? Or who can oppose your decrees? Or when people perish, who can challenge their maker? Or who can come into your presence to vindicate the unrighteousness? For neither is there any God beside you who have the care of all, that you need show you have not unjustly condemned. Nor can any king or prince confront you on behalf of those you have punished. But as you are righteous, you govern all things righteously. You regard it as unworthy of your power, to punish one who has incurred no blame. For your might is the source of the righteousness. Your mastery over all things makes you lenient to ours. For you show the might when the perfection of the power is displayed, and in those who know you, you rebuke insolence. But though you are master of the might, you judge with clemency, and with much leniency you govern us, for power whenever you will attend you. You taught your people by these deeds that those who are righteous must be kind, and you gave your children reason to hope that you would allow them to defend for their sins. For these were enemies of your servant doomed to death, yet while you punished them with such solicitude and indulgence, granting time and opportunity to abandon wickedness. With what exactitude you judged your children, to whose ancestors you gave the sworn covenant of the goodly promises. Therefore, to give us a lesson, you punish our enemies with measured deliberation, so that we may think honest of your goodness when he judge, and when being judged we may look for mercy. Second example resumed. Hence, those unrighteous who lived a life of the folly, you tormented through their own abominations. For they went far astray in the path of the error, taking for God the worthless and the disgusting among beasts, being deceived like a senseless infant. Therefore, as though upon unreasoning children, you send your judgment on them as a mockery. But they who took no heed of the punishment which was but child play, were to experience a condemnation worthy of God. For by the things through which they suffered distress, being tortured by the very things they deemed God, they saw and recognized the true God whom formerly they had refused to know. With this, their final condemnation came upon them. Wisdom chapter 13. Digression on false worship. Foolish by nature were all who were in ignorance of God, and who from good things sin did not succeed in knowing the one who is, and from studying the work did not discern the artisan. Instead, either fire or wind or swift air or the circuit of the stars or mighty rulers or luminaries of heaven, the governor of the world, they consider God. Now if out of joy in their beauty they thought them God, let them know how far more excellent is the Lord than these, for the original source of the beauty fashioned them. Or if they were struck by their might and energy, let them realize from these things how much more powerful is the one who made them. For from the greatness and the beauty of the created things, their original author by our knowledge is seen. But yet for these the blame is less, for they have gone astray perhaps, though they seek God and wish to find Him. For they search busily among His works, but are distracted by what they see, because the things seen are afar. But again, not even these are pardonable. For if they so far succeeded in knowledge that they could speculate about the world, how did they not more quickly find its Lord? But wretched are they, and in their things are their hopes, who termed good things made by human hands, gold and silver, the product of the art and the image of the beast, or useless stone, the work of the ancient hand, the carpenter and the wooden idols. A carpenter may cut down a suitable tree and skillfully scrape off all its bark, and deftly plying his art produce something fit for daily use, and use the scrap for his handiworks in preparing his food and have his fares. Then the good for nothing refuse from these remnants cooked wood ground full of nuts. He takes and carves to occupy his spare time. This wood he models with mindly skill, and patterns it on the image of the human beings, or makes it resemble some worthless priest when he has dabbed in with red and crimson its surface with a red stain, and daubed over every blemish in it. He makes a fitting shrine for it and puts it on wall of fasting in with the nails. Thus he provides for it a rest if fall down, knowing that it cannot help itself, for truly it is an image and needs help. But when he prays about his good and marriage of children, he is not ashamed to address the thing without a soul. For vigor he invokes the powerless. For life he entreats the dead, for aid he beseeches the wholly incompetent, for trouble something that cannot even walk. For profit in business and success with his hands, he asks power of the thing with hands utterly powerless. Wisdom chapter 14. Again, one preparing for voice and about the travels, the wild waves cry out to wood more unsound than the boat that bears him. For the urge for profit devised this letter, and wisdom the artisan produced it. But your providence, O Father, guide it. For you have furnished even in the sea a road, and through the waves a steady path, showing that you can sail from any danger, so that even one without skill may embark. But you will that the product of your wisdom be not idols. Therefore people trust their lives even to most afraid woods, and were safe crossing the waves on a raft. For of old, when the proud giants were being destroyed, the hope of the universe who took refuge on a raft, left to the world a future for the woman family under guidance of your hand. For blessed is the wood through which righteousness comes about. But the handmaid idol is accursed, and its maker as well. He for having produced it and the corruptible things, because it was termed a god. Equally odious to God are the evildoer and the evil deed, and the thing made will be punished with its makers. Therefore upon even the idol of the nation shall a judgment come, since they became abominable among God's works, snare for human souls and a trap for the feet of the senseless, the origin and the evils of the idolatries. For the source of the wantonness is the division of the idols, and their invention corruption of life. For in the beginning they were not, nor can they ever continue. For from human emptiness they came into the world, and therefore sudden end is devised for them. For a father afflicted with the untimely mourning made an image of the child so quickly taken from him, and now honored as a god what once was dead, and handed down to his household the mystery and sacrifice. Then in the course of time the imperious practice gained strength and was observed as a law, and the graven things were worshipped by royal decrees. People who lived so far away that they could not honor him in his presence copied the appearance of the distant king, and made the public image of him they wished to honor, out of zeal to flatter the absent one as though present. And to promote this observance among those to whom it was strange, the artisan's ambition provided a stimulus. For he, perhaps in his determination to please the rulers, labored over the likeness to the best of his skill. And the message drawn by the charm of the workmanship soon take as the object of the worship the one who shortly before was honored as a human being. And this became snare for the world, that people enslaved to either grip or tyrannies confer the incommunicable name on stone and earth. Then it was not enough for them to err in their knowledge of the God, but even though they live in great world resulting from ignorance, they call such evil peace. For while they practiced either child sacrifice or occult mysteries or frenzied carousing in exotic rite, they no longer respect their wives and purify of image marriage, but they either waylay and kill each other or aggrieve each other by adulteries. And all is confusion, blood and murder, theft and guiles, corruption, faithlessness, tumult, and perjuries. Disturbance of good people, neglect of the gratitude, besmirching of souls, unnatural lust, disorder in marriage, adultery, and shamelessness. For the worship of the infamous idols is the reason and source and extreme old evils. For they either go mad with enjoyment or prophesy lies, or live lawlessly on the rightly perjure themselves. For as their trust is in lifeless idols, they expect to harm when they have sworn falsely. But on both accounts justice shall overtake them, because they thought perversely of God by devoting themselves to idols, and because they deliberately swore false oaths, despising pieties. For it is not the might of those by whom they swear, but the just retribution of sinners, that ever follows upon the transgression of the wicked. Wisdom chapter 15. But you, our God, are good and true, slow to anger and governing all with mercy. For even if we sin, we are yours and know your might, but we will not sin, knowing that we belong to you. For to know you well is complete righteousness, and to know your might is the root of the immortalities. For the evil creation of the human fancy did not deceive us, nor the fruitless labor of the painters, or forms smeared with varied colors. The sight of which arouses yearning in a fool till the long for the inanimate form of the dead image. Love of the evil things and worthy of such hope are they who make them and long for them and worship them, the porous clay idols. For the potter laboriously working the soft earth mold for our service each single article, he fashioned out of the same clay both the vessel that serve for clean purpose and their opposite all alike. As to what shall be used of each vessel of either class, the worker in clay in the judge. With Mrs. Spand told him mold a meaningless gap from the self-same clay, though he himself shortly before was made from the earth, and is soon to go whence he was taken when the life that was lent him is demanded back. But his concern is not that he is not to die, nor that his span of the life is brief. Rather he vies with the goldsmith and the silversmith, and emulate the molder of the bronze, and take pride in fashioning counterfeits. As his heart is more worthless than earth in his hope, more ignoble than clay his life. Because he knew not the one who fashioned him and bred into him a quickening soul, and infused a vital spirit. Instead, he esteemed our life a mere game, and our span of the life a whole holiday for gain. For one must, said he, make a profit in every way, be it even from evils. For more than anyone else, he knows that he is sinning when out of earthen stuff he creates the fragile vessel and idol alike. But most stupid of all and worse than senseless in mind are the enemy of your people who enslaves them. For they esteemed all the idol of the nation as God, which cannot use their eyes to see, nor nostril to breathe the error, nor ear to hear, nor finger warm the hand of the fulfilling. Even their feet are useless to walk with. For it was a mere human being who made them, one living on borrowed breath who fashioned them. For no one is able to fashion a God like himself. He is moral, and what he makes with a lawless hand is dead, for he is better than the thing he worships. He at least lives, but never his idols. Second example resumed. Besides, they worship the most loathsome beast as regards stupidity. These are worse than rest. For beasts are neither good-looking nor desirable. They have escaped both the approval of the God and his blessing. Wisdom chapter 16. Therefore they were fittingly punished by similar creatures, and were tormented by a swarm of the insect. Instead of this punishment, you benefit your people with a noble dish, the delight they craved by providing care for their food, so that those others, when they desire the food, should lose their appetite even for necessities, since the creatures sent to plague them were so loathsome. While these, after brief period of the privation, partook of the noble dish. For inexorable want had to come upon those oppressors, but these need only to show how their enemies were being tormented. For when the dire venom of the beast came upon them, and they were dying from the bite of the crooked serpent, your anger endures not to the end. But as a warning for a short time, they were terrorized, though they had the sign of the salvation to remind them of the precept of your law. For the one who turned toward it was saved not by what was seen, but by you, the Savior of all. By this also you convinced our foes that you are the one who delivered from all evils. For the bite of the locust and the flies slew them, and no remedy was found to save their lives, because they deserved to be punished by such means. But not even the fangs of the poisonous reptiles overcame your children, for your mercy came forth and healed them. For as a reminder of your injunction, they were stung, and swiftly they were saved, lest they should fall into their forgetfulness and become unresponsive to your beneficence. For indeed neither hope nor application cured them, but your all-healing word, O Lord. For you have dominion over life and death, you read down to the gate of the Hades and read back. Human beings, however, may kill another with malice, but they cannot bring back the departed spirit or release the soul that death has confined. Your hand no one what can escape. Third example, rain of the manna for Israel instead of the plague of the storm. For the wicked who refused to know you were punished by the might of your arm, were pursued by unusual rain and a hailstorm and unremitting downpours, and were consumed by fire. For against all expectation, in water which quenches everything, the fire grew more active, for the universal fight on behalf of the righteous. Then the flame was temporal, so that the beast that was sent upon the wicked might not be burnt up, but that these might see and know that they were struck by the judgment of God. And again, even in water, fire blazed beyond its strength, so as to consume the produce of the wicked land. Instead of this, you nourished your people with the food of the angel, and furnished them bread from heaven, ready to hand the untoiled foe, endowed with all delight and conforming to every taste. For this substance of yours revealed your sweetness toward your children, and serving desire of the one who received it, will change to the whatever flavor each one wished. Yet snow and ice withstood the fire and were not melted, so that they might know that their enemy fruits were consumed by a fire that blazed in the air and flashed lightning in the rain. But this fire, again, in order that the righteous might be nourished, forget even its proper strength. For your creation, serving you, its maker, grows tenfold in punishment against the wicked, but it relaxed in benefit for those who trust in you. Therefore, at that very time, transformed in all sorts of the ways, it was serving your all-nourishing bounty, according to what they need and desired. That your children whom you loved might run alone, that is not the various kind of the fruit that nourishes, but your word that preserves those who believed you. For what is not destroyed by fire, melted when merely warmed by your momentary sunbeam. To make known that one must give you thanks before sunrise and turn to you at daybreak. For the hope of the ungrateful melts like a wintry frost and run out like a useless water. Wisdom chapter 17. First example, darkness afflicted the Egyptian while the Israelites have light. For great are your judgment and hard to describe, therefore the unruly souls went astray. For when the lowlies thought to enslave the holy nation, they themselves lay a shackle with darkness, fettered by the long night, confined beneath their own roofs as exile from the eternal providence. For they who supposed their secret sins were hid under the dark veil of the obedience were scattered in fearful trembling, terrified by apparitions. For not even their inner trembles kept them unafraid, for crashing sound on all sides terrified them, and the mute phantom with somber looks appeared. No fire had force enough to give a light, nor did the flaming brilliance of the stars succeed in lightening up the gloomy night. But only intermittent fearful fires flashed through upon them, and in their terror they thought of beholding these worlds worse than the times when the sight was no longer to be seen. And the mockeries of their magic art failed, and there was a humiliating refutation of their vaunted shrewdness. For they who undertook to banish fear and terror from the sick soul, themselves sickened with the ridiculous fear. For even though no monstrous things frightened them, they shook at the passing the insect and the hissing of the reptiles, and perished trembled reluctant to face even the arrow that they could nowhere escape. For wickedness of its nature, cowardice testifies its own condemnations, and because of the distressed conscience always magnifies misfortunes. For fear is not but the surrender of the helps that come from reason. And the more one's expectation is of itself uncertain, the more one makes of the not knowing the cause that brings on torment. So they, during the night, the powerless, though it was, since it had come upon them from the recesses of the powerless Hades, while all sleeping the same sleeps, were partly smitten by fearsome apparitions, and partly stricken by their soul surrender, for fear overwhelmed them sudden and unexpected. Thus then, whoever was there fell into the prison without bars and was kept confined. For whether one was a farmer or the shepherd or a worker at task in the Westland, taken unawares, it served out the inescapable sentence. For all were bound the one bond of the darkness, and worried only the whistling wind, or the melodious song of the birds in the spreading branches, or the steady sound of the rustling wool, or the rude crash of the overthrown rocks, or the unseen gallop of the bounding animals, or the roaring cry of the fiercest beast, or an echo resounding from the hollow of the hills. This sound, inspiring terror, paralyzed them. For the whole world shone with the brilliant light and continued its works without interruptions. But over them alone there was spread the oppressive night and the image of the darkness that was about to come upon them. Yet they were more a burden to themselves than was the darkness. Wisdom chapter 18. But your holy ones had a very great light, and those others who heard their voice but did not see their forms, counted them blessed for not having support. And because they who formerly had been wronged did not harm them, they thanked them, and because of the difference between them, prayed with them. Instead of this, you have furnished the flaming pillar, a guide on the unknown way, and the mild sun for honorable migration. For they deserved to deprived of the right and imprisoned by darkness, they had kept your children confined, through whom the imperishable right of the law was given to the world. Fifth example, death of the Egyptian firstborn, the Israelites are spared. When they determined to put to death the infants of the holy ones, and when a single boy had been cast forth and then saved. As a reproof, you carried up the multitude of their children and made them perish all at once in the mighty war. That night was known beforehand to our ancestors, so that with the sure knowledge of the oath in which they put their faith, they might have courage. The expectation of your people was the salvation of the righteous and the destruction of their foes. For by the same means with which you punished our adversaries, you glorified us whom you had summoned. For in secret the holy children of the good were offering sacrifice and carried out with one mind the divine institutions, so that your holy ones should share alike the same blessing and the dangers, once they had sung the ancestral hymns of praise. But the discordant cry of their enemies echoed back, and the piteous wail of the mourning for children was borne to them. And the slave was smitten with the same retribution as the master, even the commoner suffered the same as the king. And all alike by one common form of the death had countless dead, for the living were not even sufficient for the burial, since at a single instant their most valued offspring had been destroyed. For though they disbelieved at every turn on account of the sorceries, at the destruction of the firstborn, they acknowledged that this people was God's son. For when peaceful stillness encompassed everything, and the night in its swift course was half spent, your all-powerful world from the heaven royal throne leaped into the doomed land. A fierce warrior bearing the sharp sword of your inexorable decree, and alighted, and filled every place with death, and touched the heaven while standing upon the earth. That at once the vision in horrible dreams perturbed them, and unexpected fears assailed them. And cast a harp that one here, another there, they revealed why they were dying. For the dreams that disturbed them had proclaimed this beforehand, lest they perish unaware of why they endured such evils. The cry of death touched even the righteous, and in the desert a plague struck the multitude, yet not for long did anger last. For the blameless men hastened to their champion, bearing the weapon of the his special office, prayer and the propitiation of incense. He withstood the wrath to put a stop to the calamity, showing that he was your servant. He overcame the bitterness not by the bodily strength, not by force of arms, but by word he overcame the smithers, recalling the sworn covenant with their ancestors. For when corpses had already fallen one on another in heaps, he stood in the midst and checked the anger, and cut up its way to the living. For on his full length love was the whole world, and the ancestral glories was carved on the 4 rows of the stone, and your grandeur was on the crown upon his head. To these the destroyer yielded, these the feared, for the sole trial of the anger sufficed. Wisdom chapter 19. But But Cyrus rather assailed the wicked until the end, for God knew beforehand what they were yet to do. That though they themselves had agreed to the departure and had anxiously sent them on their way, they would regret it and pursue them. For while they were still engaged in the funeral rites and the mourning at the burial of the dead, they adopted another senseless plan, those whom they had driven out with entreaties. They now pursued as fugitives. For compulsion appropriated to this ending drew them on and made them forget what had befallen them, that they might complete the torment of their punishment. And your people might experience a glorious journey while those others met extraordinary deaths. For all creation in its several kinds was being made over anew, serving your command that your children might be preserved unharmed. The cloud overshadowed their camp, and out of what happened water, dry land was seen emerging. Out of the Red Sea in unbedded road and a grassy plain out of the mighty flood. Over this across the whole nation sheltered by your hand, and they beheld so stupendous wonders. For they ranged about like horses and leapt like lambs, praising your Lord their deliverer. For they were still mindful of what had happened in their sojourn, how instead of your young animal the land brought forth net, and instead of fish the river swarmed with countless frogs. And later they saw also a new kind of the bird. When prompted by desire, they asked for pleasant food. For to appease them, quail came to them from the sea, and the punishment came upon the sinners, not without the forewarning from the violence of the thunderbolt. For they justly suffer for their own misdeeds, since they treated their guests with the more grievous hatred. For those others did not receive unfamiliar visitors, but these was enslaving beneficent guests. And not that only, but what punishment was to be theirs, since they received the stranger unwillingly. Yet these, after welcoming them with the festivities, oppressed with awful toils those who had shared with them the same right. And they were struck with the blindness as those others had been at the door of the righteous man, when surrounded by warning darkness, each sought the entrance of his own door. For the element in ever-changing harmony, like a string of the harp, produced new melody, while the flow of the music steadily persisted, and this can be perceived extracted from a review of what took place. For land creatures were changed into water creatures, and those that swam went over on land. Fire in water maintained its own strength, and water forgot its quenching nature. Flames, by contrast, neither consumed the flesh of the perishable animal that went about it them, nor melted the ice like quick melting kind of the ambrosial food. For every way, Lord, you magnified and glorified your people unfailing. You stood by them in every time of the circumstance.